You can close your eyes now if you'd like. Dim the lights. Let the soft hum of your fan lull you into stillness. This is your time. Nothing urgent. Nothing loud. Just a quiet drift into the past. Tonight, you're not in your bed. You're not in your apartment. You're waking up somewhere else. Far away and far back. Welcome to the Palace of Versailles, France. The late 1600s. You don't know exactly what time it is because nobody does. Time is told by candlelight and custom. You wake not to an alarm, but to the cold, creeping draft that seeps through your shuttered window. It smells like dust, like wood that's been breathing in centuries of whispers. Your bed is stiff, the mattress stuffed with straw, lumpy and uneven, and the sheets carry the faint, lingering scent of mildew and sweat. You didn't sleep well. That's normal here. People don't expect rest. They expect ceremony. A knock isn't needed. One of the palace servants walks in without asking. Privacy isn't something you have here. You're not just living at Versailles, you're on display. You're handed a porcelain bowl filled with water. Not warm. Never warm. You splash your face, half to wake yourself, half to avoid the smell of your own breath. Because toothbrushes don't exist yet. You'll chew a clove later and hope for the best. Then comes the dressing. You don't dress yourself. Of course not. That would be vulgar. Two attendants begin the delicate work of layering you in fabric. One layer, then another, then another. Corset, perhaps. Embroidered sleeves. An elaborate waistcoat. The whole ensemble weighs more than a house cat. And the shoes, don't forget the shoes, come with small, curved heels. Red soles. The higher the heel, the closer you are to the king. You can barely walk. But you have to. Because now it's time to show up. Versailles is a palace, but it's also a performance. Everything here is about who sees you and how you are seen. You step into the hall. The floors are polished but uneven. The air is cold and dry. You can smell the perfume before you see the people. They don't bathe often, but they do douse themselves in layers of floral, musky scents so thick they sting your eyes. Breakfast? Not for everyone. The king eats in public, and if you're lucky, you might get to stand in the room while he does. You won't eat with him. You're not important enough. Most people here aren't. You wander through the hall of mirrors. It's breathtaking, literally. Hundreds of candles flicker in golden chandeliers above. The mirrored walls reflect each one. So it looks like a galaxy is trapped inside the palace. But you're not free to explore. You're here on a schedule you don't control. There are rituals to attend, courtiers to impress. You must be seen standing at the right angle, in the right clothing, with the right expression. You must flatter the right people. Avoid the wrong glances. And whatever you do, do not yawn. Because at Versailles, everyone is tired. But no one dares to look it. By now your feet hurt. Your clothes itch. You're starving, but it would be ungrateful to say so. After all, you're at the most beautiful palace in Europe. Right? A bell rings. That means the king has awoken. You and about 100 others will now march to his bedroom to watch him get out of bed. Yes, that's a real thing. The royal waking ceremony, the lever, is a formal process. The king rises like the sun, and everyone must be there to witness the light. Even if you're just in the back of the room, clutching your freezing fingers and pretending you're honored to be there. You smile, bow, pretend it's magical. But the truth is, you're already exhausted. And it's only 8 a.m. You are officially part of the king's court now, which means you exist for spectacle. Not power, not leisure, definitely not comfort. You are part of an elaborate, never-ending theater production. After the king's lever, you wait. You stand in a hallway, shifting your weight discreetly from one foot to the other, hoping no one notices your growing discomfort. This is where the real game begins, not of politics, but of survival. Social survival. Versailles runs on hierarchy. Every glance is measured. Every word is weighed. The nobles closest to the king don't necessarily have the most power, but they do have proximity. That's the real currency here. Being seen with the king means you exist. Being seen without him means you don't. So you maneuver, carefully. You speak to someone slightly higher in rank. You drop a compliment. They nod. That's one small victory. But then someone else interrupts and just like that, you're ignored. Erased. You make your way to one of the salons. A long, gilded room where courtiers gather to pass time by doing absolutely nothing. You sit, or rather perch, on a delicate chair upholstered in velvet. Creaks. You try not to shift too much. The fabric under your thighs sticks slightly from the sweat trapped beneath your many layers. Next to you, a woman in towering hair, powdered and woven with artificial flowers, is fanning herself with a peacock feather fan. She hasn't bathed in weeks, but her perfume arrives before she does. You attempt small talk. Feels like fencing. One misstep and you've lost. Tea arrives. Or wine. Or chocolate if you're lucky, thick, bitter, expensive. You sip slowly. It's one of the only things you're allowed to enjoy without scrutiny. Outside, the gardens stretch for miles. Perfectly symmetrical. Manicured hedges. Statues of gods you vaguely recognize. But you're not here to wander. Strolling alone might be seen as suspicious. Are you ill? Are you trying to avoid someone? Inside, the air thickens. Someone begins playing a harpsichord. The notes are soft, mechanical, oddly haunting. The music is less for enjoyment and more for maintaining the atmosphere of constant performance. A footman whispers something into your ear. You've been summoned. Not by the king, of course, but someone who wants you to deliver a message. A subtle hint. A veiled insult. You oblige. You have no choice. On the way, you pass a noblewoman crying silently in a hallway. No one stops. This is common. Emotional breakdowns are part of the architecture. By mid-afternoon, you're starving. You can smell roasted game coming from the kitchens. You won't get any of it. Not yet. Meals are events. They happen late. They happen in public. For now, you nibble on a piece of stale bread a servant sneaks you behind a tapestry. Tastes like dust and salt. You chew slowly to make it last. In a corner, two courtiers argue in low voices. They're speaking in code, every insult wrapped in politeness. You listen, learn, say nothing. Everything is about staying useful, staying visible, staying in favor. Even when it means betraying your friend. Even when it means smiling at someone you despise. Around 4 o'clock, the king goes hunting. You go too, though you're not allowed to ride close. You stand in the muddy edge of the forest, watching the men cheer as a deer is brought down. You clap. You feel the mud soak into your expensive shoes. You smile anyway. Back at the palace, you change into evening wear. Another outfit. More layers. Your scalp itches under the powdered wig. Your skin feels tight from the sweat and the powder and the lack of fresh air. Now comes the grand dinner. You enter the hall of mirrors again. This time lit even more brightly. Reflections of crystal, gold, and candlelight surround you on every surface. The king eats slowly. You watch. If you're lucky, you get a plate after. If not, you just pretend you're full. Hunger isn't elegant. You hear laughter. It doesn't sound real. It's the kind of laugh people make when they want to be heard laughing. You laugh too. You talk. You flatter. You lie. And then, finally, you retreat. It's night. You think you'll sleep. But the walls are thin. You hear footsteps, whispers, arguments, lovers sneaking between rooms. You lie in bed, still in half your clothes. You're too tired to remove the layers. You stare at the ceiling. You don't feel important. You don't feel powerful. You just feel watched. Even now, even in the dark. You wonder how long you can keep doing this. Being seen, being still, being perfect. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but just to disappear for a moment. You wake up again. Your head aches slightly from the scent of your own wig, powdered with starch, oil, and lavender. Now fused with the smell of sweat from yesterday, or maybe the day before. You're not entirely sure. Time blurs in Versailles. Everything is curated for beauty, but not for cleanliness. You sit up slowly, your limbs stiff. The air feels stale. There's no fresh breeze, no open window. The scent in your room is a strange mix. Damp fabric, old perfume, wax, body odor, and urine. Yes, urine. Because Versailles, despite all its golden mirrors and velvet curtains, doesn't have real bathrooms. There are chamber pots in every room, behind curtains, under tables. Sometimes not even that. If you're unlucky enough to pass someone relieving themselves in a corner staircase, you say nothing. That's normal here. The palace was built to impress, not to function. There are over 2,000 people living in the palace on any given day. And no plumbing, no running water. The waste is collected eventually and dumped in the gardens or somewhere out of sight. But the scent lingers, especially in the summer. Baths are rare, almost non-existent. People believe water spreads disease, so most choose to avoid it. You, like everyone else, will wash your face, hands, and maybe your underarms with a damp cloth. That's all. Your clothes aren't cleaned often either. They're too delicate, so they're aired out, brushed, perfumed, but not washed. You've worn the same undergarments for days. You don't say anything. No one does. Perfume is your shield. Everyone here smells like something. Rosewater, musk, citrus, clove. These layers try to hide the human scent underneath. But they don't erase it. They only complicate it. You head to the chapel for morning prayers. Everyone is gathered, packed tightly into pews. The smell is overwhelming. Hot breath, powdered wigs, damp stockings. You try not to gag. Someone next to you lets out a soft cough. You inch away slightly, but not too much. That would be rude. Or suspicious. There are no handkerchiefs, no soap, and almost no concept of hygiene as you know it. Disease spreads fast in places like this. Skin infections, parasites, tooth decay. You hear someone mention their gums are bleeding. You nod politely. That's normal here. Your own mouth feels fuzzy. You rub a piece of linen along your teeth. It doesn't help much. You pop a clove into your cheek and chew it slowly. The taste is bitter, but at least it masks the sourness. As you walk through the corridors, you see stains on the tapestries, smudges of old food, rats scurrying across floorboards. No one reacts. They live here too. The king, despite being the symbol of refinement, only bathes a few times a year. His doctors insist it's enough. So, naturally, the court follows suit. Cleanliness isn't admired. It's considered risky. There are cosmetics, heavy ones, lead-based powders to cover blemishes and redness, rouged cheeks, painted lips, wigs to hide thinning hair or lice. You see a man applying a patch, a small black velvet sticker shaped like a star. It's meant to cover a boil on his cheek, but he places it with pride, as if it were a jewel. People scratch discreetly, behind fans, under gloves. The itching never stops. Fleas, lice, and mites are constant companions. In private letters, nobles complain about the vermin. But in public, they pretend it doesn't exist. Versailles must remain perfect. Palace of illusions. Your feet hurt. Always. The shoes pinch. Your stockings are damp with sweat. You can feel a blister forming under your heel, but you don't dare remove the shoe to look. Later, in the salon, you hear a woman faint. She wore her corset too tight. Again. That's the fashion. Being able to breathe is less important than being admired. A servant rushes in with smelling salts. No one moves. No one reacts. This happens every day. A man sits nearby with red, crusted eyelids. He rubs them constantly, probably an eye infection, but he's still dressed in emerald silk. Still drinking thick, lukewarm wine. There is always wine. Water is dangerous, or at least that's what people believe. So everyone drinks. Even children. Even first thing in the morning. Your stomach churns slightly. You haven't eaten much today. The little you had was oily, bland, and likely spoiled. But no one questions the food. That would insult the cooks. And the king. You excuse yourself and wander out to the garden, hoping for fresh air. But even here, the scents follow you. The fountains are beautiful but stagnant. The flowers, carefully arranged, cannot cover the smell of waste carried in the breeze. Still, the view is breathtaking. You sit on a marble bench, stiff and cold. You breathe in slowly. You try to focus on the rustle of leaves, the distant clatter of hooves. You let your eyes close, just for a moment. It's peaceful. If you forget the lice, the filth, the smell of old perfume and rotting food. Just for a moment, Versailles almost feels like a dream. until someone taps your shoulder. You're needed back inside. Another ceremony, another ritual, another hour pretending you feel nothing. You are back inside. The palace never rests. Even when nothing is happening, something is expected of you. Mostly, it's the art of doing nothing properly. Etiquette is the true ruler of Versailles. It controls everything. Where you walk, how you sit, how you fold your hands, how deep you bow. There's a right way to smile, a right way to stand, even a correct angle to hold your spoon. Everything is hierarchy. Everything is performance. You are always being watched. There's no such thing as a private moment here. You eat in front of people. Sleep with people listening on the other side of thin doors. Dress and undress while others pretend not to notice. You are never alone, but you are always lonely. Right now, you're waiting in a long hallway. There's a rumor the king might pass through. If he does, you must be ready. Your body straight, your eyes lowered. Not too much, just enough. When he enters, the room shifts like water. Heads turn, bodies bow. Conversations halt mid-sentence. Even breathing becomes quieter. He nods. You bow. You say nothing. He doesn't look at you. But if he had, you were ready. That's the point. Later, you're told you did well. You feel strangely proud of being ignored. That's Versailles. The most important rituals here are the most pointless. There's the lever, of course, the royal waking, and the coucher, the royal going to bed. Both are done with an audience. The king does not simply wake or sleep. He performs the idea of waking and sleeping so others can participate in his existence. Even the simplest gesture is broken down into status. Who is allowed to hand him his gloves? Who passes him his shirt? Who gets to carry the royal chamber pot? These tasks are assigned with military precision. They are coveted. You once saw two men nearly duel over who would close the king's bed curtains. You're not even surprised anymore. Then there's the dining. Meals are theater. Long, loud, and crowded. Even if you're not eating, you're expected to attend. Watch. Admire. The king eats in silence or while listening to court musicians. You may stand against the wall and pretend to enjoy the scene. Maybe you'll be offered a piece of bread if someone likes you. You're not here to eat. You're here to be seen. Seating arrangements are everything. Where you sit reveals who you are. Too close to the wrong person and your reputation sinks. Too far from someone important and you vanish. People speak in riddles. Compliments with thorns. Jokes that sound like flattery. No one says what they mean. No one means what they say. A woman praises your outfit, but her smile is too sharp. You make a mental note to change tomorrow. After dinner, there are games. Cards. Dice. People bet fortunes they don't have. No one plays for fun. They play for attention. To gain favor. To be noticed. You pretend to enjoy yourself. You laugh when others laugh. You cheer when someone wins. You lose quietly. At one point, you watch a man kiss the hand of a duchess, while whispering an insult about her husband. She laughs. She knows. They all do. Later, you witness the king dancing. It's an official event, a ballet. He is dressed as the sun. Golden rays attached to his arms. Everyone claps. Everyone smiles. He's the center of gravity here. Not because he demands it, but because everyone else makes it so. After the performance, there's a poetry reading. You don't understand most of it, but you nod when others nod. You say bravo when it seems right. That's how you survive here, by becoming a mirror, reflecting back whatever the court wants to see. You feel your face tightening from the effort of smiling. Your jaw aches from pretending to be amused. You slip away for a moment, behind a curtain, into an alcove. Just a few seconds of silence. Someone else is already there, hiding, not from danger, but from expectation. You nod to each other. You don't speak. You both understand. Then back out, back into the light, where every gesture is watched, every misstep remembered, where silence is suspicious, and stillness is seen as laziness. You sit down beside a fireplace. The heat barely reaches your bones. The conversation swirls around you. Names, gossip, rumors about who was caught where, with whom. And why? You say nothing, but you hear everything. Because at Versailles, your real job isn't to serve. It's to listen, to notice, to nod, to know exactly what not to say. You close your eyes for a moment. Let your head rest back against the carved wooden paneling. You're not asleep, but you're not awake either. You're in between, like everyone here. Among the gilded faces and powdered whispers of Versailles, few shine brighter or burn faster than Madame de Montespan. She isn't just a mistress. She's the mistress, the official one, the celebrated one, the one who knows that power at court doesn't come from the crown on your head, but from the secrets you keep and the rooms you control. You first see her from across the hall of mirrors. She doesn't walk. She glides, head high, dress trailing like smoke. She smiles as if the entire court is just background music. You hear the whispers. Everyone whispers about Montespan. How she was born Françoise Athénise de Roquecourt. A noblewoman, yes, but not royal. How she married a marquis and then left him. How she caught the king's eye and never let it go. They say she's witty, unforgiving, stunning, dangerous. Some say she bathes in milk. Others say she bathes in goat's blood. Someone swears she owns a necklace filled with crushed pearls and arsenic. Of course, none of it is confirmed. And that's the point. At Versailles, mystery is power. You watch her navigate the court with a confidence that borders on cruelty. She knows who to speak to, who to dismiss, who to destroy with a look. She doesn't just attend events. She defines them. The king changes his schedule around her. He pauses when she enters the room. His smile changes shape when he speaks to her. No one dares challenge her. Not openly, but they try. Behind fans within fans. The duchesses and countesses plot. Letters vanish. Gossip is traded like currency. One rumor at a time. They call her the true queen. Not kindly. You wonder how she sleeps at night. The answer is very little. She's always watching, always calculating, because she knows something everyone else at court forgets. Nothing at Versailles lasts forever. Not titles, not loyalty, not love, and certainly not power. You hear about the Black Mass. Not from her directly, never that, but from a valet who accidentally read a letter he shouldn't have. They say she visited a fortune teller, a priest who no longer worked for the church. They say she prayed for the king's love with candles made of bone and wax. They say a baby was sacrificed. But here's the secret of Versailles. Everyone believes the worst things, and no one does anything about it. Because truth isn't what matters. Only influence. She bore the king several children. He legitimized them, built houses for them, bought titles for them, all while remaining married to the queen. The queen, pale, quiet, resigned. You see her sometimes at mass, her eyes downcast, her hands folded like she's praying not to cry. But Montespan is never ashamed. She laughs at the rules, breaks them in public, and yet she stays untouchable. Until she isn't. One day you notice something strange. She's not at the dinner. She's not at the walk. She's not seated beside the king. A week passes, then another. Her name still echoes through the halls, but her perfume no longer lingers in the staircases. Someone else has taken her seat. The king barely says her name now, and just like that, the sun moves on. Montespan fades, slowly, elegantly. She's given a pension, a quiet estate. She lives out her days in shadow. No arrests, no exile, just absence. But you remember her. The way she stood at the top of the staircase. The way the room bent toward her. The way fear and admiration danced side by side in every gaze she caught. You still hear the rumors. That she was cursed. That she made a deal with something darker than ambition. But the truth? She was brilliant, terrifying, unforgettable. And that was her real crime. She didn't play the game. She rewrote it. Night falls at Versailles slowly. Not with darkness, but with candlelight. Hundreds of flames flicker to life. Chandeliers glow like constellations trapped in gold. The walls shimmer with reflections of mirrors, silk, and skin. But beneath the brilliance, the palace changes. The smiles soften. the laughter thins, and the real business begins. The halls are quieter now. Not empty, never empty, but slower, more deliberate. Footsteps are muffled. Voices drop to whispers. People vanish into side rooms, behind curtains, into passageways that weren't there during the day. Versailles has its official rituals, the music, the dances, the prayers, but at night, another rhythm takes over. One of secrets, of touches that last too long, of eyes that meet and don't look away. You leave your room after curfew. You're not supposed to, but no one truly follows the rules here, they just pretend to during daylight. You walk slowly down a narrow corridor. The stones beneath your feet are cold. The air smells faintly of smoke and damp fabric. You hear soft laughter coming from behind a door. Then silence. You keep walking. You pass a maid, sneaking out of a noble's room. Her cheeks are flushed. She doesn't look at you. You don't ask questions. Further down, you see a man you recognize, a high-ranking minister, slipping a sealed letter into a tapestry. Moments later, someone else retrieves it. Deals are made here in the dark. Not over contracts or ink, but over favors, flesh and fear. You find a hidden staircase. There are dozens and descend. Below the palace, the walls are rougher. Less marble, more stone. These are the service corridors, the veins of Versailles. You see servants asleep on piles of linens. Bottles hidden behind crates. A small group playing cards by candlelight. Their laughter genuine in a way the ballroom never allows. Someone offers you wine. You take it. It's warm and bitter, but it cuts through the chill. Above you, music still plays. Harpsichord. Faint, distant. You climb back up, quieter now. You emerge into a side gallery, empty except for two figures pressed against the window. You recognize one of them. He's married. She's not his wife. You keep walking. You've seen worse. You return to your room. Or at least you try to. There's a man waiting outside your door. He doesn't speak. Just hands you a folded note and walks away. You unfold it. It has no signature. Just a single sentence. They're watching you. You stare at it. Your breath catches. Then a knock. You hide the note quickly. It's a lady of the court. Smiling. She says she got lost. She didn't. She asks if she can sit. You let her. She says nothing for a long time. Then leans in close and whispers something strange. Don't trust the quiet ones. You want to ask what she means. But when you turn to look at her again, she's already leaving. Versailles never sleeps. It just changes masks. You lie in bed, fully clothed. The sheets feel colder now. You think about the secret passages, the letters, the glances. You think about who watches, and who's watched. Somewhere in the distance, a scream echoes. Short, muffled. You tell yourself it was nothing. Just a dream. Just a fox in the gardens. Just someone losing at cards. You close your eyes. Not because you're calm, but because keeping them open feels worse. In Versailles, even dreams aren't safe. Not really. You wake to movement. Not yours. Someone else's. A servant is already in your room, quietly lighting a candle. He doesn't look at you. He's not supposed to. He's been awake for hours. Maybe he never slept at all. This is how Versailles works. The illusion of luxury is held up by invisible hands. Always moving, always cleaning, always watching. You don't know his name, but he knows yours. He knows your schedule, your preferences, how much you drink, when you complain, who you avoid. He's not just your valet. He's your shadow. There are thousands like him in the palace. Some sleep in corridors. Some in attics. Some don't sleep at all. They wash, they scrub, they fetch, they bow. They carry pails of waste through side passages, hoping not to be noticed. But you notice. Now, because once you start seeing them, you realize they're everywhere. You pass a maid polishing a chandelier, her hands raw from lye. She stands on a rickety ladder, balancing above marble floors. If she falls, no one will write her name down. You see a cook, sleeves rolled up, arms burned from boiling pots. He's stirring something thick and gray that smells like old onions and cream. You see children, pages barely older than 10, hauling wood for the fireplaces. Their cheeks are red from cold, their hands blistered. One sneezes. No one reacts. There are footmen who walk 20 miles a day, just inside the palace. Messengers who carry notes they're forbidden to read. Laundry workers who scrub delicate silks until their fingers bleed. Seamstresses who mend garments overnight, then disappear by dawn. And most of them will never be thanked. If they're noticed, it's only to be scolded. A candle not straight, a spot of dust missed, a dish not warm enough. They know every room, every secret hallway, every lover's hiding place. They know who sneaks wine after midnight. They know which duchess drinks alone in her room, eyes red. They know things that would ruin people, but they say nothing, because servants don't speak. They serve. Their lives are spent in motion and silence. You pass a group in the courtyard. Their heads bowed. They're waiting for orders. Their clothes are coarse, damp, their eyes heavy. One meets your gaze for a moment, just long enough for you to see the exhaustion, the bitterness. Then he looks away, because eye contact is dangerous. Too much and it's seen as defiance. Too little and it's disrespect. Even that, they must balance. You overhear two maids whispering. One hasn't been paid in 6 months. The other says her sister died of fever last week. They both smile when a noble walks past. Later, in a quiet stairwell, you find a tray of broken glass and spilled wine. Someone dropped it. There's blood on the edge of the wood. No one's cleaned it yet. You imagine the servant who carried it. The panic. The punishment. They probably won't eat today. And still the palace glows. Still the halls shine. Because the people behind the curtains never stop moving. They sleep when they can. Eat when allowed. Speak only when spoken to. They live their entire lives one step behind the people they serve. Always waiting. Always bending. Always erasing themselves. And yet, without them, Versailles would collapse. All the gold, the gowns, the music. None of it exists without the invisible army beneath it. You sit down in the salon later that evening. Someone brings you wine. You don't look at their face. But now you want to, because they're not ghosts. They're the truth Versailles hides best. Versailles thrives on secrets. But some secrets are too big to stay quiet. They leak. They stain. They fester. One day, a name is whispered in the hallway. Then another. Then another. Suddenly, the palace holds its breath. It starts small. A rumor about a noblewoman whose husband died too suddenly. They say she visited a fortune teller. They say the fortune teller sold her something. Powder. A vial. Prayer. No one says poison. Not yet. But soon the word spreads like a sickness. Poison. Whispers bloom across salons and stairwells. Names float like smoke. Duchesses, priests, midwives, alchemists. Even Montespan's name resurfaces, as if it had never left. You sit at dinner and notice how slowly everyone chews, how carefully they drink. Cups are sniffed, plates are traded. One courtier brings his own food. Another refuses to eat altogether. Everyone is afraid. And pretending not to be. You learn about La Voisin, a woman outside the court somewhere in Paris, a fortune teller, a provider of love spells, and other things. She's arrested, tortured. She talks. She says the aristocracy came to her, not just for powders and poisons, but for dark masses, for sacrifices, for deals with the devil. She names names, too many names. Now the king is listening. Not just out of concern, but out of embarrassment. His palace, his court is being dragged through the mud. An investigation begins. It's called the Affair of the Poisons. And it shakes Versailles to its powdered foundations. Over 400 people are implicated. Many are arrested. Some vanish. Others confess under torture. A few are burned alive. One woman claims she was paid to kill a baby for a nobleman. Another says she made potions out of human bones. You don't know what's true. No one does. But the fear is real. You see a marquis faint at breakfast after drinking wine he didn't pour himself. You hear a duchess accuse her own maid of plotting her death, only to discover the maid had simply served her the wrong tea. People start wearing protective charms under their clothes. Medals, crosses. A few even wear hidden knives. The court becomes quieter. more suspicious. A glance lingers too long, and it's called evidence. A friendship is suddenly suspicious. A compliment sounds like a threat. Monty Span is questioned. She denies everything, but the damage is done. Her image, once so untouchable, is now cracked. She retreats further into the shadows. The king creates a tribunal. The chamber ardente, the burning court. Secret trials. Harsh sentences. No appeals. They don't care about justice. Just control. You watch as carriages carry prisoners away from Versailles. They never return. One morning, a noblewoman is dragged from her salon, still wearing her jewels. She screams the whole way down the hall. No one helps. Everyone watches, then turns away. Eventually, the arrests stop. The tribunal is dissolved. The king declares the matter finished. But the fear lingers. People drink less wine now. Laugh a little quieter. The walls remember. You sit by the window that night, staring out at the empty gardens. The moon is high, the statues still, the fountains silent. But behind you, the air feels heavier. Like something once hidden is still here, still watching, still waiting. Because in Versailles, nothing disappears completely. Not the secrets, not the sins, not even the dead. She walks through Versailles like a shadow dressed in pearls. The Queen, Maria Theresa of Spain, wife of Louis XIV, mother, monarch, figurehead, but not power, not really. You see her at Mass, her head bowed low. You pass her in the garden, always flanked by ladies in waiting, always silent, always tired. Her gowns are flawless, her jewels heavy, her posture perfect. But her eyes look like they belong to someone else, someone not quite here. She came to France as a child bride, barely able to speak the language, married to a man she barely knew, a man who would be king, and then was. But even as queen, she was never at the center of Versailles. That space belonged to someone else, to many others, mistresses, advisors, entertainers, nobles, priests. Maria Theresa was the crown, not the ruler. Her days are filled with ritual, dressing, walking, smiling, sitting. She eats in public, her plate surrounded by silent watchers. Even her chewing is observed. She cannot win. If she eats too much, she's mocked. If she eats too little, she's pitied. She hosts salons, where others speak and she listens. She writes letters in careful French, though she prefers Spanish. She prays for hours, maybe out of faith, maybe out of habit. You hear people speak about her as if she isn't real. She's kind. She's dull. She loves her dogs more than the king. That last one might be true. You see her stroking the fur of a small spaniel, whispering to it as if it's her only friend. Because here it probably is. She gave the king 6 children. Only one survived. You pass her chamber one morning and hear her sobbing. Just once. Just a single sound, quickly muffled. No one says anything, because sadness in Versailles is not discussed. It's dressed, decorated, hidden. At night, her room is locked from the outside. Not for safety, but for ceremony. Her privacy belongs to the state. Even her grief is public property. When Montespan was powerful, the queen had to sit beside her at dinner, had to smile while the king gazed elsewhere. Once you saw her hands tremble when she picked up her fork. Just slightly. No one else seemed to notice. Or maybe they did, and chose not to, because what can anyone say to a queen? She isn't hated. She isn't feared. She's simply there. A symbol wrapped in brocade. A reminder of old alliances. She doesn't command the room. She survives it. You see her once in the garden alone. No attendants. Just her. She's walking slowly, her hands clasped behind her back. Her shoulders sagging just enough to betray the weight of the crown. You don't approach. You don't speak. But she sees you. And in that one moment, something flickers in her gaze. Recognition. Exhaustion. Maybe even relief. You nod. She nods back. Then she walks away. And just like that, she's a figure again. A role. A queen. But you'll remember that second. That breath of humanity buried beneath the layers. Because Versailles doesn't care if you're a king or a servant. It demands the same thing from everyone. Disappearance. Not in body, but in soul. You've been here long enough now. Long enough to forget what silence sounds like. Long enough to understand that Versailles is not a palace. It's a performance. A gilded stage where no one stops acting. Not ever. You realize it when you watch someone laugh just a beat too late. When you hear applause that doesn't reach the eyes. When you see a noble faint not from hunger, but from holding their posture for too long without breathing. Everyone here is pretending to be richer, smarter, holier, happier. It's not survival of the fittest. It's survival of the most convincing. You think about leaving, but where would you go? Versailles isn't just a palace. It's the center of gravity. Everything pulls toward it. Everything else is darkness. And so, you stay. You smile when you're not happy. You bow when you feel disgusted. You flatter people you fear, and ignore people you admire. Not because you want to, but because that's the only way to remain visible. And being invisible at Versailles is worse than death. Every inch of this place is designed to impress, but also to trap. The gardens are vast but symmetrical, beautiful but repetitive. You can walk for hours and feel like you haven't moved. The mirrors reflect your face so perfectly, you forget which one is real. Even the music repeats. Harpsichord again. The same key again. A court composer plays it differently each night, but you swear it's all one endless melody. Your sleep gets worse. Your appetite fades. You don't know if it's poison or just exhaustion. You dream about being back in your own bed. Not the one here with silk drapes and velvet sheets, but something simple. Cotton. Creaky frame. Air that smells like trees. You miss hunger that's real. Laughter that isn't rehearsed. Touch that isn't calculated. You miss being no one. Because here everyone is someone. And it's exhausting. The king smiles. His teeth are yellowed from sweets. His eyes are sharp. You can't tell if he's bored, or if boredom itself is beneath him. He rules absolutely, but he too is imprisoned. By ceremony. By expectation. By the crushing need to always be more than human. He cannot leave Versailles. Not really. If he does, the whole illusion cracks. So he stays. And performs. And so do you. Every gesture, every word, every silence. All of it must be intentional. You once saw a noble exiled for yawning during the king's evening promenade. Another was banished for failing to wear the correct color on a holy day. The rules are endless. The punishment's silent. One day you're in the king's favor. The next you're gone. Not arrested. Not executed. Just erased. Like dust swept into the corners of a golden room. And no one asks where you went. They just look away. The palace itself seems to breathe with tension. The windows never open. The doors never close without echo. The floors groan under the weight of performance. And in that echo you hear it. The truth Versailles hides best. No one here is free. Not the servants. Not the nobles. Not the queen. Not the king. They are all prisoners. Locked in place by gold, mirrors, and fear. And the most terrifying part? They chose it. They chose this life of ritual and illusion. Because anything else, anything real, is too uncertain. Too vulnerable. And now you have to. You watch yourself in the mirror. You fix your collar. You tilt your chin slightly upward. Just enough to show dignity, not arrogance. You take a deep breath. And walk back into the light. Because the show never ends. And you still have a part to play. Time doesn't stop at Versailles. Even if the palace tries to pretend otherwise. The walls still gleam. The mirrors still shine. The gardens remain symmetrical. But the people, they change. They age. They disappear. The Sun King grows older. Louis XIV. Once radiant. Once godlike. Now more shadow than light. His legs swell. His teeth rot. His mood darkens. The rituals continue. The dinners. The music. The court theater. But there's less laughter. Less sparkle in the eyes. The gold looks duller. Behind closed doors, the whispers grow louder. The treasury is thin. France is tired. The wars were long. Too long. Too many men gone. Too many fields abandoned. The people outside the gates are restless. They don't bow when carriages pass like they used to. They don't whisper blessings at the mention of the king's name. Inside, Versailles refuses to acknowledge it. The gowns remain heavy, the meals elaborate, the rules unchanged. But even here, the cracks begin to show. You walk through the Hall of Mirrors, and it's quieter than usual. You notice paintings missing, tapestries worn at the edges, rooms once bustling now closed for renovations that never come. Fewer nobles attend the dances. Some have retired, some fled, some were simply forgotten. The new generation doesn't smile the same way. They don't kneel as deeply. They talk openly about money, about rebellion, about Paris. You feel it in your stomach. Something is ending. The king dies in 1715. They bury him at St. Denis, with a procession that feels more ceremonial than heartfelt. He reigned for 72 years. Most of the people in the palace have never known another ruler. For a moment, Versailles holds its breath. And then, nothing changes. The new king is too young. Regents take over. The court adjusts hesitantly. Life continues. The routines remain. But the magic is gone. The awe, the fear, the gravity, the illusion that Versailles was eternal, shattered. And slowly, very slowly, the palace begins to fade. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Just inch by inch. The music becomes simpler. The dances shorter. The etiquette looser. People stop bowing as deeply. The nobles become less polished, more distracted. Eventually, someone laughs during the coucher. A real laugh. And no one is punished. That's when you know. Versailles is dying. Not in flames. Not in blood. But in silence. You hear of rooms being closed off. Wings of the palace sealed. Servants dismissed. Furniture sold. Paintings removed to pay debts. No one says the word. But you feel it. Decay. The perfume no longer masks the rot. The smiles no longer hide the fear. By the time Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette inherit the palace, it's already a relic. Beautiful, yes, but hollow. She prefers the Petit Trianon, a smaller estate, less formal, more free. She plants flowers, wears simpler gowns, milks goats as a game. People mock her for it. But deep down, you understand. Even she wants to escape Versailles, because the palace is no longer a throne. It's a ghost. When the revolution comes, it doesn't arrive at Versailles first. It brews in Paris, in markets, in taverns, in hunger. But eventually the storm reaches the gates. And this time, the gates don't hold. The mob doesn't care about mirrors or marble. They don't bow. They don't admire. They just march. Through the gardens, up the stairs, into the halls. They strip the palace, take the silver, burn the tapestries, smash the symbols. Versailles is emptied, not just of people, but of meaning. You stand in the Hall of Mirrors one last time. It's quiet, truly quiet. No music, no footsteps, no fans fluttering. Just you, and your reflection, and the knowledge that everything grand, everything golden, everything sacred ends. Even here, especially here. It's over now. Versailles, the palace of light, of gold, of mirrors, faded. But you're still here, in your mind, somewhere between sleep and memory, somewhere between your pillow and 100 years ago. And you realize something simple. You wouldn't have lasted a day. Not because of the cold or the hunger. Not even because of the endless rules or the backbreaking etiquette. But because you are used to being real. Versailles didn't want real. It wanted beautiful. It wanted controlled. It wanted quiet suffering in exchange for shiny distractions. You wouldn't have lasted because you would have questioned something. Why do I have to bow here? Why can't I eat when I'm hungry? Why am I pretending to laugh at things that aren't funny? Why does no one say how tired they are? You would have spoken out. Or stayed silent when you were supposed to speak. You would have reached for water instead of wine. Looked someone in the eye for a second too long. You would have cracked. Not loudly. Just enough to be noticed. Just enough to be inconvenient. And in Versailles, inconvenience was deadly. You were never meant for a world like that. No one really was. Even the ones who thrived there, the Montespans, the kings, the masked noblemen, they were playing roles they could never step out of. At night, when the wigs came off and the makeup washed away, they were still trapped. By fear. By expectation. By the fear of being forgotten. But you can forget. You can sleep. And in that, you're freer than anyone who ever walked those mirrored halls. You lie in your bed now, present again. The air is quiet. No powdered faces. No rustling silk. No eyes judging your posture. Just the soft hum of your room. The gentle breath of a world that doesn't expect you to perform. Take one more breath. And let go of Versailles. Let go of the mirrors. The ceremonies. The silence. The lies dressed as lace. You wouldn't survive a day there. But why would you want to? Close your eyes. And leave the palace behind. Let it crumble without you. Sleep well. You're home.